Hello, everyone. Welcome to SportsKhabri. With me are Adi and Rishi, and this is our first of. There are going to be many lives that we're going to do throughout the course of the ICC T20 World Cup. We've gotten off to a great start. Actually, when I sort of looked at the World Cup this time around, I didn't expect it to be this good, especially with so many associate nations. Already, we've had three good games. I think neither of these games have been extremely one-sided. The first one, we'll start discussing that. USA Canada, I think everybody was pleasantly surprised by the way this game went. And in the end, it was USA that emerged victorious, probably the favorites of the two. But it was a valiant effort, I think, from Canada, Rishi. And just to start off, I'm sure most of us caught the highlights instead of watching the game itself. And there was some clean striking throughout the game. The wicket looked good. Um, a lot of positives, at least from a Canada perspective. Navneet Dhaliwal is the guy who scored majority of their runs, 61 of 44. Then you had Nicholas Curtin scoring 51 of 31, and then Shreyas Mova, the wicketkeeper, finished off with 32 of 16. So a lot of good things for Canada. We'll discuss them first before we move on to the second innings. What did you make of their performance, and were you surprised by how close the contest was in the end?
First of all, I was thoroughly surprised, like a positive surprise as to how clean the striking was and how good the quality of shots were. Like, I did not expect that from like a team like Canada. Like, that has been the course of how it's been happening for most of the games so far, at least. And it's just that the way they're hitting the ball, it's so orthodox, it's so like
Hmm.
like if you put a few of these players in, like, say a Big Bash League or say a SAT20, or even one or two of them in the IPL, I think they could do fairly decently. Like, okay, maybe IPL might be a
Yeah.
push, but at least the other two leagues they can comfortably play in. That's how good the level of striking, ball striking was. That's what like stood out, at least for me.
Yeah, 100%. I think the Adi, a lot of the conversation has been around the ball striking, especially from one man in the US team. It's I think he's gone. Everybody's talked about him at least the first couple of days. Aaron Jones, 94 of 40, and some of the hits, they weren't just small sixes. A couple of them went out of the ground, and it's just amazing to see somebody like him. They didn't have to rely on the so-called more sort of known names like Corey Anderson, for instance. He got the job done quite comfortably in the end. Although they had a few struggles in the beginning, lost a couple of wickets, but he carried that innings, struck it so well, and I don't think he really gave Canada too many chances.
Yeah, I mean, the way he batted was almost like a proper T20 because when he came in, USA were not in that great of shape in terms of they still had, a lot of runs to chase, in a limited overs. And him coming, scoring from the get-go, he's hit 10 sixes. That's like the highest since Chris Gill, I guess, in a T20 World Cup. And all the sixes were humongous. It was not just, almost clearing it, and it was all clean strikes. You could see his raw power, and it's not only his raw power, but you could also see he had a technique to hit those shots. And when we talk about USA, first time playing a World Cup and looking at the caliber of the players they have, it's a great surprise because taking these associate nations who haven't played World Cup or high level of cricket, coming in, showcasing their skills, and having players like Aaron Jones, out of nowhere coming to the limelight is something what World Cup always brings, right? In any form of World Cup, in any form of sport. So his ball striking was surprisingly good, and you could see that he is as good as any other T20 player in terms of finishing. If you put him in an IPL game, as she said, you couldn't realize, okay, he plays for associate nation or he's someone who's playing for a lower level nation, right? Because the his hits were clean, the way he struck the ball was clean, and also his reverse sweeps. He had a couple of reverse sweeps also, which he got off the bat. And yeah, overall the technique, again, in terms of stories and having new players coming and getting the limelight is always good for the sport.
Yep. Hi, EBFF Gaming. Yeah, everybody, and you guys joining in, whoever, please leave your thoughts on this opening clash. Rishi, just from a US perspective, I'm sure a lot of people have taken notice, or a lot of people in the cricketing world would have taken notice of this innings, of the way they played. And but they're in a difficult group. Let's just discuss the group as well. They're in a group with India, Pakistan, which is not going to be easy. Ireland as well, who are not easy at all on their given day at least. You see US really pushing teams like Ireland or Pakistan or even India for the matter of fact, in this tournament.
I mean, depends on how they can handle their bowling. Like if, like of course, if they play in a country like a stadium like Barbados or Guyana, you could see the wickets were a lot slower, and
Yeah.
the bowlers will benefit a lot from that. But if it's one of those batting friendly pitches, then I don't like. You could see like how even they were getting sent quite easily. But it's all like it'll come down vastly to how much of damage limitation they can do with their ball. If they can do a fairly good job, I wouldn't write them out of any contest. Even India, like I of course expect India to win the game, but I think they will put up a really good competition. Like they do, like they're a very capable side, like US, like, and they're a very orthodox cricket playing like side also. They're very exciting to watch. They were always looking to get on the front foot. They weren't trying to play like here and there, just get about doing things, like just about getting things done. They were there, they had the positive attitude. If they can keep it the same to like throughout the course of the tournament, I see them doing like really well.
Yep, fair enough. I see Lone Good saying, talking about India versus Kuwait. Of course, that's coming up if you're an Indian football fan in about 3 days' time. Of course, we'll be trying our best to get that covered as well. But yeah, back to the World Cup, Ali. I mean, I think it would eventually come down to a game for USA where they play the likes of Ireland or Pakistan. You think they can do something there? I mean, Rishi, you think that, I mean, they're looking good. You've also said they look good. You think they can sort of cause an upset because they'll be playing on these tracks, mind you. So, and that probably favors them.
Yeah, I think all their home games will be in USA itself. They played a
Yeah,
couple of
yeah,
matches in Texas, New York, and Florida, right? So again, all these conditions and stadiums are going to be new for every single player out there because it's literally a stadium and which is built brand new. So we can take conditions out of the topic because no one's aware of the conditions, how the ball's going to play, and we don't know how it's going to go. So in that terms, we never know. But again, it's a World Cup. We always talk about the magic of the World Cup. Small nations coming in, sometimes overperforming. We always like to have certain upsets, right? Maybe looking at US being the home nation, we would love them, beating the likes of Pakistan and Ireland towards the so-called Super Eights. I mean, even though the quality will be hugely different. Canada again, the first game was against Canada, right? So it's now upping the game level against the likes of Pakistan, the likes of India, Ireland, because these three teams have been consistently playing a lot of international cricket, including Ireland. They've already played a lot of World Cups previously also. So it's going to be tough, obviously, for US. It's all about the way they fight towards each game. Maybe the Ireland Pakistan game is the games that's going to define them, because I don't think beating India is possible, unfortunately. I mean, even though if they beat, it's a good shock. Uh, Same with Pakistan. Maybe Pakistan still have the better quality in terms of players. But again, you don't know. We saw West Indies also struggling yesterday. You can never know. If the game somehow just changes, losing a couple of wickets, it's a T20. You don't have much time to come back like an ODI, right? So, even when it's against Pakistan, if USA get like a couple of early wickets, we can always see them under pressure. We never know how it's going to work out. So, hopefully, US put up that fight and, get into the groove and try to beat one of these two teams. But let's see how it works.
yep, yep. Oh, Rishi, I mean, it brings us on to West Indies versus Papua New Guinea. I cannot tell you, after so long, I
Well,
have
first of
enjoyed
all,
watching.
before we
Yeah,
go there, I need you to tell me
okay.
who told you that West Indies are capable of this.
I mean, it's not. I agree. You said West Indies are capable of, like, I mean, nearly losing to these teams. You said they're capable of losing. I think they, at one point, I thought they would lose. But regardless, I think there's a real conversation to be had just about, I mean, the wickets. We'll get to the wickets. Okay, never mind. But just, I think the fun of having an associate nation do so well against a test playing team. There's something there, and I for me, after a very long time, I think we had a couple of good games where Netherlands did well in the ICC Men's World Cup last year. But after a long time, I think it felt like, oh, you know what? There's something brewing here. There's something fun that could happen this T20 World Cup because of the wickets that I think you do get in the West Indies. And this I think is going to be very important to bringing the sort of gap down between teams in terms of quality at least. So yeah, let's get to the game. Papua New Guinea put into bat by Rovman Powell. They managed 136, and at some, I don't know. We were talking at the interval as well, and it somewhat felt like it's not bad. It's not a bad score, and you can defend 136, especially on that wicket. We saw Akil Hussain do really well when he started bowling, and with the number of spinners that Papua New Guinea had, it was always going to be a contest. Did you think it would be this close?
I mean, I would expect West Indies out of everyone in at least this West Indies squad. If you had to ask me who is the most likely to be a victim of an upset of an underdog win, I would probably say West Indies because this I don't know what it is, but there's something about this team that is very capable of a collapse because like again yesterday of course Andre Russell came clutch, Roshan Chase came clutch, but this was a very meager total to be exact. Like it was to be like very honest, it was 130 is not a, a really high total. Like of course the pitch is slow, the pitch is was very challenging, but let's say they play an England or an India, like I'm very sure that 136 is not going to be the total that West Indies are gonna be like asked to chase. In those circumstances, I I wouldn't expect them to, that come that close to chasing the game down because you see yesterday also like if like once Shea Hope and this who was it Nicholas Puran got out, like it seemed doom and gloom for a while for West Indies. That's what I personally feel also. Other than these two absolute banks of batsmen who are the reliable ones in the team, the others can score you quick fire runs. They can change a T20 game on its head, like on their day. But I wouldn't take them to, completely anchor an innings and guide the team to victory. That's what my main concern was about this West Indies side. That's why I told you that they are the most likely to have an upset, like be the victims of an upset. So I wasn't really surprised that West Indies almost blew the game away. But again, fair play to Russell and Chase for bringing it home for them.
No, I think once they got themselves in a tricky position with that chase, at least Adi, it wasn't an easy pitch to bat on. Let's just say that very clearly because it was soft. The wicket was soft. You could see there wasn't enough bounce in it, and especially I think we saw that with who was it? I think it was a left-hander who got caught behind, or was it Rovman Powell who got caught behind? One more. There were a couple of caught behinds that were very iffy, you
It
know.
was
I mean,
Powell.
yeah, it was
It was Powell.
Sherfin Rutherford. That's the dismissal I was talking about. But it really kept low. And yeah, you saw the keeper also didn't collect it cleanly. So we had a couple of dismissals like that. We knew it was tough. And how valuable is a player like Roston Chase? Because I think we have to discuss him, especially on these tricky wickets. He probably seems like the one guy who's kind of calm, who has the technique to get it done. You think he's underrated in this West Indies team?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of again analyzing through yesterday's game, you could see that he was the only one apart from Russell who could easily tackle those slow pitches. And the way he batted, you could not imagine that that pitch was that slow, right? Apart from Powell, I mean, apart from Ross and Chase playing and even Russell and finishing it up in the end. To be fair, like the entire batting lineup when we look at the score and the way they played, it was a bit slow from their side. I mean, from their openers itself, like Johnson Charles getting out, first ball LBW. But apart from that, you could see that they took the target being that low of 136. I just feel like the openers didn't want to lose a lot of early wickets and put more pressure on the middle order. And I feel like even though we could look at the overall saying they took one chase 136, they took 19 overs. They fairly seemed a bit comfortable overall. As you said, like a couple of wickets where they got caught behind, it was low and it's tough to bat. But to be fair, at the end of the day, overall as a team, West Indies still looked pretty comfortable, even with their bowling and batting, right? And it's the first match of a long tournament, so I think you can't really over criticize any team in the beginning of the tournament, because again, it's very fresh, and again, it's going to take a long journey for each player and each team to go through the tournament itself. So again, in terms of yesterday, we could actually appreciate Papua New Guinea, the way they bowled, trying to defend a very low target of 136. In this era of T20, we'd expect them to finish it in 10 overs, 8 overs, looking at how IPL went through. But fortunately or unfortunately for us cricket fans, the conditions look different in, especially in West Indies, as we expected. So it's going to be more of trying to face these conditions and looking at that. I feel like West Indies just took their time. They just need the 2 points on board. They don't need to finish it in 3, 10, 8, 10 overs. So I feel
Yeah.
like they were okay. They were fine. Uh, they put pressure on themselves by batting very slow in the beginning, losing a couple of wickets early. But overall, I just feel like they navigated through what they had to do and got the job done.
Yeah, I think Adi, I think that's absolutely right. I think they need the points more than anything else. But I think just a quick shout out to the captain Asadwala, who was brilliant with the ball, and even John Kariko, the left arm orthodox, was so good. I think even bowled one over in the death, so he did extremely well as well. Um, but is there space for somebody like a Shea Hope in this West Indies team? Given the wicket that we saw, I feel like because you've got Guyana and Barbados, and most of the games will happen there. Barbados, we saw this morning, Namibia versus Oman. We'll get to that game as well. So we can see that you probably get the idea that the two wickets in the Caribbean not easy to bat on. Is there space for somebody who's a little more technically sound like Shea Hope in this team? Do you think they need to get him in there?
Yeah, definitely. Like these are the type of pitches where your technique, your skill, your actual like craftsmanship is gonna come clutch if more than anything. Like you have like high scoring pitches like New York where like about five like four or five of your top batsmen can come in and put in a good shift, but the truly testing pitches are where your real craftsmen will come to picture. So I really think like the orthodox batsmen, the Shea Hopes, are crucial for at least these games, and even
Yeah.
the other games. Like you, when you have an extremely explosive side, you need one or two anchors in that side for sure, because of course the explosive batsmen are either going to give you a start or gonna one of them is going to keep the run rate high, one of them is going to finish for you, but you need the other person bank at the other end giving a constant run flow and keeping your wicket safe at least in the middle overs for that. And that is in the high scoring pitches. For these Guyana, these Barbados, the West Indies pitches, I for sure think you need your technically skilled batsmen who can navigate through these tough conditions. That's a non-negotiable.
Yep. I think I would love to see Shea in there as well, Adi. But is there space for him? Is the question in place of whom potentially is another question. Do you see him coming in? Because I don't know about Johnson Charles and Brandon King. Both of them, to me, I think are all right as batsmen. I think Shea is a better batter, and he should be making the squad. Do you think he makes the squad for you at least in the coming games?
I mean, yeah, I would like, expect him to come back. I mean, I'm actually surprised he didn't start the first game. But again, as we said, it's a very long tournament. Still, it's still the group stages. You still have a lot of games to play, another, 4 games, and then you still have Super 8s where you play another 3, 4 games. So hopefully they can integrate him back to the squad. Even I'm not that sure with their opening pair when it comes to West Indies, right? I still don't know if Johnson Charles is the man to open. I would still prefer Brandon King, but I don't know about Johnson Charles. Never
Yeah.
would rather have Sheo playing as an opener. Uh, so yeah, I would. I again, someone with the quality of Sheo who is playing IPL and coming off an IPL season where he played regularly. I would just obviously as a West Indies team, it's like common sense for you to take him into the squad. It's very surprising they haven't played him. Uh, but I don't know why they haven't played him. What's their thought process? And also, we forgot about Hetmeyer. They're not even playing Hetmeyer in this.
Yeah.
So again, don't really know why they've not played. I don't know if Hetmeyer has some injury issues, etc. But you can see that they still have a lot of players who can come in and perform for this team. So we'll just have to wait and see how they how they basically evolve over the couple of games, and see if there are any changes, etc.
Yep, Rishi, I think what worries me with regard to West Indies is they just played Papua New Guinea, who have a very simple attack but effective. You will come up against more challenging oppositions in New Zealand, in Afghanistan. If Afghanistan choose to, they can play four spinners. And none of those four spinners are easy to play, mind you. You got Noor
That's
Ahmed,
true.
Rashid Khan, Mohammad Nabi, and Mujibur Rahman. If I'm just worried for them if they come up against an attack like that. You see them losing one of those big games against New Zealand or Afghanistan.
I mean, for sure, for sure. I had told I would like in the previous video I told that I wouldn't be surprised at all if
Yeah.
Afghanistan go through instead of West Indies for this very reason that like yeah on their day West Indies are like they on paper they're one of the most dangerous looking sides who can blow you out of the park, but they also have this like the tendency of when you go all out, the downside is that you can find yourself in a trench in no time whatsoever. And I
Yeah.
just checked, the West Indies are playing the last group game against Afghanistan in St. Lucia. That is again a West Indian pitch. I would not be surprised if Afghan played four spinners altogether. Like because it's going to be slow, it's going to be turning corners. West Indians, if they do not play tentatively, if they do not play carefully, they're gonna be castled like left, right, center. So they have like I really hope Shea Hope comes to bat and like I'm for sure I'm like I would not be surprised at all if he came in and played a few clutch innings in the West Indian pitches. But yeah, for sure, if they don't find a way to navigate through these tricky pitches, they can find themselves in trouble. And I wouldn't be too surprised if they find themselves in trouble in terms of qualifying also.
Yep, yep. It looks tricky, Adi. You think they'll fare well against teams like Afghanistan, teams like New Zealand? New Zealand, of course, also have the option. Mitch Santner, Rish Sodhi, they've got their bag of tricks. Glenn Phillips can bowl off breaks if they need. So they've
Sachin
got
Ravindra
their
is also
options.
in the ball still.
Sachin Ravindra, so they exactly. So you're going to come up against a lot of spin in this tournament. And based on what you saw, do you see are there positive signs for West Indies?
I mean, the thing is, it's always the hope with West Indies. We
Adi?
don't know what kind of West Indies
Yeah.
always turn up in each World Cup, right? Since at least the past two, three World Cups. So it's always the hope, like, I always hope if they get their best game, the players take it seriously, come out and play the best game. It's again a matter of thinking and going through phases. Again, when you talk about New Zealand, we can't take New Zealand out of the fact that it'll also be tough for New Zealand to play there also. So it's going to be tough for each team. I don't think it's going to be easy for any team, right? Uh, Talking about New Zealand also very used to pitches where they play at home, generally T20s, and we know how it's in New Zealand. It's very flat and it's easy to score like a lot of runs.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a different pitch for them also playing in West Indies, a place where they haven't played for a long time and going to face difficult conditions. Maybe as we said, looking at Afghanistan, the amount of quality they have in their spinners, I mean, we can say they have one of the best spin mix, at least in terms of their entire unit. Uh, Maybe you could say it's better than India also, with their spin attack. So you could always give Afghanistan, in terms of theoretically, we could also give them the best shout in terms of, they might be the best team and have a best chance to move into the top, the Super 8. So I still think it's going to be very 50-50 for each team. It's going to be a matter of how each team plays through. Uh, Also, I just feel like for me, it's more like, bro, like New West Indies playing in their home ground. I just rather have them in the Super 8s and somehow they have a magical run towards the semi-finals. Then we'll see how it works. So for me, it's in that thought process. But again, it's always going to be
Yeah.
50 World Cup. Actually, to be honest, when I think about New Zealand, I want to see more of how New Zealand fancy this group, because when I think about it, I don't think New Zealand play a lot of cricket outside New Zealand, especially T20s. And coming to a place like West Indies where they haven't played for a long time, it will be interesting how they take it forward. Because again, they also, to an extent, struggle with spin, right? So it's not going to be all easy ride for them, in terms of they can also have a major upset against Afghanistan. We never know. So it's just gonna be like how each team takes each game.
Yeah, I think where I'm getting at, Rishi, is probably the fact that West Indies have a slightly weaker spin attack than most of these, than Afghanistan and New Zealand at least. If you look at, of course, Akil Hussain is top class. I think Roston Chase is all right, although he's not a special wow player, but he'll get the job done. I feel like compare him to somebody like a Moeen Ali, especially with the ball. And then the third choice is Gudrakesh Moti, who didn't do quite well even yesterday. That's where my concern lies with West Indies. You think they just don't have the spinners they need to sort of match an Afghanistan or even a New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, it's very valid what you said. Like their spin attack, of course, Akil Hussain is right up there. But then after that, it's the gap between Akil Hussain and the others. Roshan Chase is their test bowler, but again, when it comes to T20s and the knack of picking wickets, he's more of a
Yeah.
slowish bowler who doesn't get you those quick fire wickets, who doesn't bowl wicket to wicket, end to end. Like he's not end to end in the sense he doesn't uh, bowl at a T20 pace, if I may. So, and after that, like you said, he didn't bowl all that well yesterday as well. So, compared to the bowling attacks of, yeah, I feel in this group at least, Afghanistan's spin attack is head and shoulders above the rest. And even New Zealand, they have a really good spin attack. Like they have Rachin Ravindra and Mitchell Santner who are proper bowlers. They have Glenn Phillips who can come in and bowl. They have Ish Sodhi who's an orthodox full leggy. They have enough world class quality to get the ball to turn uh, considerably more than at least West Indies. And the bigger concern for
Yeah.
me is how the batsmen navigate. Like New Zealand, although they play their vast majority of games in New Zealand, I feel the New Zealand batsmen, whoever are playing the World Cup, have had slightly better, at least IPL, than the West Indian batsmen, most of whom, like at least
Mhm.
the ones who played yesterday, they didn't even feature in IPL. And you see the players like Rachin Ravindra, like Devon Conway's already pretty used to chip up. You see Daryl Mitchell, Rachin Ravindra, they've all played in spin friendly tracks, and they've all like Rachin Ravindra has done fairly well. Even Daryl Mitchell did well. Devon Conway, although he might not play, he's pretty used to such circumstances. So I feel although they are not completely equipped, I feel they're still much better off than a West Indies batting lineup. Like you see, I other than Nicholas Puran, Shimran Hetmeyer, and Rovman Powell didn't even have a great IPL. Who else has
Yeah.
played the IPL like this? The current IPL, like Russell, of course. Uh, but he's not going to anchor the inning. He's going to come in the last, say, 3-4 overs and going to give you that explosion of runs. So I'm more concerned about how the batsmen, the West Indies batsmen, are gonna stay at the crease and give a good set of runs when it comes to facing spin than their spinners doing the job.
Right. Yep. 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 It's going to be interesting to see. But we'll move to the next game that took place. This was just this morning, and it was Namibia versus Oman. And a big shout out to a former RCB player, David Visa. He got the job done for Namibia.
Yes.
Adi was so good with the ball in the first innings. Got the job done in the super over. Are you surprised that we got a super over so early in the tournament? Very low scoring game though.
Yeah, I was actually surprised waking up to look at them play a super. I was like, wait, what's happening in this game? And it was not even like a high scoring game. It was a very, very low scoring target. It was just 110 runs to win of a 20 over game.
Yeah.
You would expect that to be chased again, as I said, very easily. But again, Oman, Namibia, they're teams in the same level. So you can always say there's going to be a very close clash regardless. I think Namibia had around 18 runs to win over the last 3 overs, if I'm not wrong, 19 runs to win, and they failed to finish it. Again, you could say that was a kind of, you know, in terms of the game state, took it to the super over. It's always, something you can say like, how did you get to that stage, especially when it's that easy. But again, they got the job done, and especially David Visa coming in the super over and scoring those runs. That I guess that's where we can tell, that experience, class, a better level of cricketing career over the years helped out. In a very high pressure situation, scoring 13 or 4, that's always shows that that's this class basically. I mean, he's played IPL, a lot of IPL, especially for RCB. I mean, even though it was not those great years for RCB, but he still has that experience. He's played for New Zealand also before, so yeah. In terms of that, we can always say the class shows, and that's what happened.
South Africa. But yeah,
Well,
David
South
Visa,
Africa,
Rishi,
yeah.
I mean, 39, yeah, 39 years old, and he's still going strong, dude. I mean, incredibly strong. He scored that. I mean, of course, super over it goes to it, and then 6 and a 4 to start off, and then you pretty much won the game there, right? 10 runs in the first 2 balls of a super over, and then he bowls the super over as well. So I mean, is it a one man army here for
I
Namibia?
mean, when I was I was looking at the first innings, like I hadn't woken up to watch the first innings of
Yeah,
Oman. So, like I was watching the first innings, I saw Trumpelman bowling and Ruben
yeah,
Trumpelman, and like as the game progressed, okay, the highlights like and this one, and I'm watching the first innings highlights. Trumpelman bowled well, and now the super over kicks in. I'm fully convinced that Trumpelman himself is going to bowl the super over. And David Visa picks up the ball. I'm like, okay, fair, like fair. He did well. He kept it under 8. He picked up 3 wickets, but I was really surprised. I was like, okay, if this doesn't go according to plan, it can come biting them like horribly because Trumpelman bowled with the
yeah.
new ball. He got the top order out, and it was two unplayable deliveries, mind you. So I was very scared of how it's going to turn out. But fair play to David Visa. He kept it tight. He bowled wicket to wicket. He bowled the first two were over like proper Yorkers. First, like the second one
Yeah,
outside
exactly.
the third or fourth stump Yorker. They could not play it at all. Like so, fair play to David Visa. Like at his age, he's going amazingly well.
Yeah, I swear. I mean, I think great to see him doing well for Namibia. But as the game, I think fairly low scoring. Visa in the post match interview also said about 140 would have been good, would have been par on that wicket. So it's again another slowish track. We've heard from another player that the tracks in the West Indies will not be easy to bat on. So this is what it's looking like generally, at least when it comes to these pitches out in the Caribbean. Um, We've got a cracker to look forward to today. Finally, I mean, actually, to be fair, they've been all good games so far. I didn't expect to have really good games up until this one today, the Sri Lanka South Africa game. But so far, I think this tournament has really delivered. And Adi, Sri Lanka versus South Africa, what are you expecting? Because it's a good contest, and I think Sri Lanka with the ball are really good. South Africa with the might they've got in the batting, they'll be really good. So how are you expecting this one to go?
I mean, yeah, I'd expected it to be a fun game, especially with South Africa. Weirdly, I feel like South Africa might struggle compared to how they're going to play generally because it's again new pitch. They're playing in New York, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
And the way that I watched the ball and the field behave, you know, in the practice match where India played Bangladesh, it looks like a very slow outfield. Doesn't seem like that pitch is still settled in where the ball can travel a lot, and also hitting there, you could see how it was a bit uncomfortable for the Indian batsman to play their game. In terms of it was actually a pretty slow track. I mean, to be fair, what I saw, it was pretty slow track to get the ball pitching up. So I could see like Dubey struggling a lot. I mean, Hardik Pandya played well in those conditions, but apart from that, Indian batsmen struggled a bit also, and I think that'll be the same conditions for the South Africans, where they genuinely, I mean, in a lot of sense, do struggle to play these slow tracks. And again, coming back to Sri Lanka, they have a couple of good spinners in terms of Tikshana and Asaranga also being the captain. So it could be an exciting game if, for example, in my opinion, if Sri Lanka get to ball first, maybe get some early wickets, could be an interesting game. Again, in terms of South Africa, I would generally think, okay, if they were playing in a pitch or in a surface like India, or in somewhere like Australia or New Zealand, they would get the best out of that pitch because they love playing pace. But this is not going to be those same pitches, and again, it's going to be a different kind of track. So I kind of excited to see how it goes forward. I want to understand what South Africa get. Like I want to understand where their openers are, who comes opening, and it's going to be really exciting to see how they play. Because I don't think they played a practice match, right? If I'm not wrong.
I'm not sure. I'm not too sure about whether they played a warm up, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, I agree. I think with Adi, what he's saying, it's going to be interesting to see how South Africa set up with their batting. And I think the same goes for Sri Lanka, Rishi, because there's what are you going? Pathum Nissanka is going to open the batting with Kusal Mendes, and then Sadira
Yeah.
Samaravikram will play at number 3. But after that, what?
I mean, I'm fairly sure
And
even Angelo Matthews is going to play, Dasun Shanaka is going to play. Or actually, instead of
okay,
Shanaka, I think Asalanka is the vice captain. So he's also nailed on starter.
yeah, he's got to play because exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's fourth, Angelo Matthews fifth, and maybe if Dasun Chanaka plays, that's the sixth batting spot. And then comes Hasaranga. They have a good bowling lineup also. They have Tikshana, they have
yeah, they do
Patirana,
have a really,
they have Noah, like they have Velelage also. Like so,
yeah,
it is like more than batting, I'm more confident about their bowling lineup because all of them are international. They're even proven bowlers. Like so, I'm looking forward to them seeing how they they can assemble their bowling lineup and manage to see out the games. Like although I feel South Africans are slightly more equipped in terms of batting, like the fact that but New York pitch again seems like a bit, yeah, like Adi said, it like the Indian batsmen were struggling to get the runs. So I feel that works both ways. Even Sri Lankans, I'm fairly sure, are gonna struggle a little bit. But yeah, I feel South Africa have just about enough quality to get to see the job to get it done.
yep. I think Adi with South Africa, are you a little worried about their bowling attack because we know they can only play 5 bowlers. It's the makeup of the side is such that they've got 5 slots of 5 bowlers. Of course, they're going to play Maharaj and Shamsi. I think that's no doubt. But then the 3 quicks, you've got Rabada. Who are your other 2 seamers? That's, I think, the major question that South Africa have to answer.
I mean, yeah, I think also Kodze will end up playing right. As he'll come in as an all-rounder
Okay.
there, so they have that extra player. But apart from that, again, in terms of form, looking at the South African players, let's say take the IPL itself. I mean, apart from Rabad, I don't think anyone else had a great IPL anyways. I mean, Kodze had wickets, but he was also expensive. And then who else were the pacers? I think Notia, again, a very
Yeah.
bang
He was
average
also, yeah.
IPL
Yeah.
for
They didn't even
Delhi.
play all their games. So, yeah.
He didn't even crack into the team, right, in terms of playing. And again, they have Marco Jansen, who's been struggling in for a long time in terms of bowling. In IPL, he struggled again. In the IPL, he struggled again. In the World Cup, he had also struggled. We could see him struggle in the World Cup also. So in terms of South Africa, I think I'm not sure what they'll go. I think they'll still end up taking these two pacers on, or maybe Koza comes in as a short 4 overs, and then they bank on one of Notia or you know uh, Marco Jansen. I think that's how they're gonna go in terms of that. I don't think anyone else will end up playing. I think South Africa's philosophy may be generally going to be like, let's strengthen up our batting and just back the batting up
Yeah.
because over the years, I think that's the strong strength anyways. Why not just, I would expect South Africa to play somewhat similar to how SRH played, right? Because
Hmm.
I think it suits this style also, in terms of class and coming. And also Quinton de Kock. Uh, I actually don't know who's going to open for them. Quinton de Kock and who else would end up opening, right? So
I'm
that
guessing Riza Hendricks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then one down, what
Yeah.
Markram. To be fair, I just want them to back
Yeah.
up their batting and stack their batting and go through there
Yeah. Yeah.
because they have a lot of experienced batters, Miller, Klaasen, you know. So
Stubbs.
just
Yeah.
more of,
The top six is, yeah, exactly. It's stacked. You've got Markram in the after the openers, Markram, Miller, Stubbs, and Klaassen, and that's your top six.
yeah.
It looks great. But again, the question, like Adi is saying, is the bowling Rishi, because I think the combinations that the Delhi Capitals and SRH went with have not helped Janssen and Nokia. So are they slightly a little worried going into this tournament, especially with the bowling?
Yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned if I were a South African fan, considering how like lately they haven't, like at least Nortje and Janssen have not gone up to the mark. But Keshav Maharaj and Tabrez Shamsi, like I expect them to play like both the spinners in the West Indian pitches. So that is 8 overs, or in fact, 12 overs in the bank. They'll just have to, and I'm fairly sure even Marco Jansen is going to play most of the games because they need to play at least one all rounder. So it's at
Yep.
least in the in the West Indies pitches, it's going to be a matter of like managing between Gerald Kuzia and Nokia. But when it comes to the US games, and in fact, like even if they are to go through, I feel yeah it looks a little bit off considering how good their batting is. Their bowling is susceptible. Gerard Kutsia was quite expensive in the IPL, and you could like even Andrik Nokia in the initial, although towards the end he pulled it a little bit back. At the start and the midway through the IPL, he was quite expensive, and that will raise some concerns when it comes to them being the spearhead bowlers for South Africa. That puts a lot of pressure on Kagiso Rabada. Like of course he's a veteran. He's had like a lot of experience on him. I do expect him to be on top of his game as well. But the fact that he does not have a support bowler who's also on top of their game is going to be slightly concerning.
Yep, absolutely. Adi, who wins today? Sri Lanka or South Africa?
I think South Africa, dude. Again, as we put in concern of Sri Lanka's batting lineup, I don't remember the last time Sri Lankans had a good batting lineup, and these guys, I don't expect them to consistently perform. And T20 again, at the end of the day, it's a batsman's game, bro. I just think you need to have a strong backed batting lineup. Even if you have tough conditions, you need to have the quality. And even if you have a good bowling lineup, I feel like in this era of T20, you can always get the batsmen coming up on top. And looking at Sri Lankan batting lineup compared to South African batting lineup, I feel like the South Africans can always, get through the whatever Sri Lankans throw. But I think it can be a good contest in terms of Sri Lankan bowling versus, the batting of South Africa. I think that's going to be a great contest. So for me, I just rather have Sri Lanka bowling first and then let's see how the game goes. Because if you can somehow strangle South Africans and make them crumble down to a very low score target, maybe below 130, 140, you can always. I think even 140 is weirdly a tough shout for like Sri Lanka to chase down with the batting lineup they have. We've seen how they can crumble within 3-4 overs, so that's one more thing with Sri Lanka. But I think I just would love Sri Lanka bowling first, so we can get that match up between their bowling versus the South African batting lineup, and see how it goes from
Okay.
there.
Rishi, who wins for you? Are you saying
Yeah,
South
bro.
Africa?
I think South Africa, yeah, just about get the job done because they have enough firepower to, I feel, outbat Sri Lanka.
Okay, unanimously, both of you are going for South Africa wins. It's going to be a fun game, guys. I think one of
What do
my
you think?
was. I think it's going to be close, but again, I would hate South Africa just because they're batting that they've got, the quality they've got. Even if it is slightly slowish and two pace, you've got the quality of Miller. So good. Markram also is there. So I think they've got enough quality to get the job done. But yeah, guys, exciting game. I think it's going to be fun. We're all going to be watching it, of course. And yeah, thanks for joining in, Adi and Rishi. We'll be back tomorrow to discuss this game, the ones in the morning. And yeah, we'll be back after all of that. So thanks everyone for joining in. And yeah, take care.